Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So I wanted to start this video off by saying that I'm sorry that my hair looks like this. I have had a really lazy day and so I didn't want to do anything with my hair, so I figured I'd just put it up and put a little scrunchie on it. And I really like this look where the scrunchie matches my shirt. For today's video, we are going to be doing the all about my eyeshadow palette tag. Whatever you want to call it. This was actually made by Ali Glines and Samantha March. I love both of them and I watch both of them on the daily. So when they came out with this tag, I watched both their videos the same day, pretty much probably in the same hour, and I've seen so many other people do this video and I love it because I love eyeshadow palettes and I love seeing everyone else's collection. Out of everything in my collection, I think eyeshadow palettes are my favorite because there's just so much variety and so much texture and so many colors and so many ways to get inspired, and so I absolutely love this. And I just want to say that I might be cheating because some of these categories I have placed 2 palettes in because some of these palettes may be discontinued or they can go for different categories. So I wanted to be able to have 2 palettes that work for the category. So let's get into the video. The first category is show your newest palette. This is the Melt Blueprint stack. So Melt was recently having a sale on their eyeshadow palettes and they had a sale on this stack and it was $25 compared to I think $48, which is an insane price. And I've always wanted the Melt stacks, but I didn't want to spend $48 or $58 on 6 eyeshadows. So when they had a sale, I knew I had to get one. This is the Blueprint stack and it has 4 blue eyeshadows and 4 neutral eyeshadows. And I noticed when I was purchasing it that it didn't have a transition shade. So I purchased the Shadow Unseen for my transition shade to round out this stack and make it like the perfect palette for me. I am so excited to use this. I have not used it. I actually received it yesterday. I have purchased a lot of palettes during this quarantine time, so I have several still coming in the mail, but as of right now, this is my newest palette and I'm excited to use it. Now I'm going to show you my oldest palette. So I have 2 for this category, like I said, because one of them I don't think is available anymore. I really struggled with this category because I do declutter my collection a lot to bring in more space for more palettes. This palette was actually in my declutter pile, but I still have it. I don't know if it would technically be called in my collection, but this is the NYC Individual Eyes Custom Compact. This is for brown eyes and I will be throwing this away very soon. It was just in my declutter pile. This was one of my first drugstore palettes. As you can see, hopefully the cream shadow here is actually, there's a big dent in it because I love this, but this is so many years old and actually needs to be thrown away. So this will not be in my collection much longer, but this is the oldest eyeshadow palette. So because that was in my declutter pile, I do want to show you what is the oldest palette in my collection. And this is the Anastasia Beverly Hills Modern Renaissance palette. I bought this palette right around I think my sophomore year of college, and that was around the time when it was like hyped up. I actually think I purchased it towards the end of the hype. I do love this palette a lot. I specifically love the burnt orange shade and the raw sienna shade. Sometimes I pull out this palette and just use the raw sienna and the burnt orange in my crease and then put tempera all over my eyelids. I think this palette is so pretty, but I don't use all that much anymore. It is not my favorite ABH palette in the world. They've come out with so many more really great eyeshadow palettes, but I do think this changed the beauty industry and it is still so beautiful and still worth $40 to $45 it costs. I love this a lot and it is my oldest palette in my collection. So now I have the most expensive palette, and I actually recently purchased the Natasha Denona Safari All Matte palette, and that is normally $129. So technically that would be my most expensive palette. However, I do not currently have that at this moment. It is still being shipped to my house. And I purchased that on sale for $64 and I will tell you, I probably would never pay $129 for a palette. So a lot of people talk about Natasha Denona, and I wanted to try her palettes. I decided to buy it at 50% off because I don't think it's ever gonna get any cheaper than that. $64 is definitely better than $129. That would be my most expensive palette in my collection, but it is not here. So we will go with the Sephora Pro palette. It's the Pro Pigment palette in Warm. This palette got so much hype back in the day. It has a lot of warm tones, and I really love this mustardy yellow shade down here. But I don't know why, I just never really got into it. I think in comparison to my Modern Renaissance palette, I really enjoyed that formula better than this. So it's really sad that I don't use this, but this is the most expensive palette that I have. I was actually recently looking at Sephora to see how much this costs to make sure that it is the most expensive palette that I have. And I noticed it is discontinued and they no longer provide it. So I wanted to show you another palette that is pretty much right next to this price, which is $68. If I didn't say that, this is $68. That is still available right now. And that palette is the Huda Beauty Desert Dusk palette. This palette is $65, but I purchased it on Black Friday, so I think it was either $30 or $40 when I purchased it. And this palette is gorgeous. This is my first palette that I've ever tried from her, but it is the color scheme that caught my eye the most because the Rose Gold palette and the Mercury Retrograde palette just were not the colors that I wanted or were looking for. So this is just like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, like dream of a palette, and I love it, and I'm so glad I have it in my collection. This is the second most expensive palette in my collection right now. So on the other side of the spectrum of my most expensive palette, I will now show the most affordable, and this is actually in a lot of people's palette tags, and these are the e.l.f. Bite Size Eyeshadow palettes. I have 7 of them, so you know I love these, but these are only $3, which is an incredible price, and the quality in these eyeshadows are phenomenal. Oops. The quality in these eyeshadows are phenomenal. It is so beautiful, and the shimmers are gorgeous. They are pigmented, and the mattes are pigmented, and for $3, you really can't go wrong with these. I've gotten so many people into these, and I highly recommend them. So these are my most affordable eyeshadow palette. The next category I have is an everyday palette. This is the Colourpop Going Coconuts palette. This palette came out, I think a couple months ago, I think during the summer maybe, or the fall, I can't really remember. But this just has so many neutral tone eyeshadows. It doesn't really lean warm, it doesn't lean cool. It's a very neutral tone palette, and I think it's great for the everyday because there's so many transition shades, like this one and this one and this one are great neutral transition shades, and Shredded is a great all over the lid shade or a brow bone shade, and these two are really great lid shades. I just think this is a really great all-around palette. If you are looking for a palette to use on an everyday basis, I think this is great. It just has the perfect amount of shimmer and matte shades, and it's only $12. Like, you can't go wrong with this. Now is the most colorful palette that I have, and I have 2 for this category. This is the Morphe x James Charles palette. This is actually a palette in a lot of people's most colorful category, but I don't want to talk about this too much because it's also in another category. This just has a bunch of rainbow shades and this whole row of neutral shades. It's a really great palette, and it's one of my most colorful palettes. So because this is also in another category, I wanted to show another palette. So this is the ABH Riviera palette. I got this at TJ Maxx, so it was at a discounted price, but this palette is really pretty for the summer. There's just so many beautiful, colorful shades in here, like this pink, this purple, this yellow, this blue. There's just so many pretty shades. I have not touched this because I have not been wearing colorful shades lately, but I'm really excited to try this out for the summer. Next is Show Your Smallest Eyeshadow palette. So I have 2 for this because I've already previously shown one of them. So this is the e.l.f. Bite Size Eyeshadow palettes. These are really small and really thin, which is great for traveling because you can just put this in your purse and it doesn't take up any space at all. They're gorgeous and beautiful, but I also wanted to put another eyeshadow palette in here because I've already talked about that. So this is the Kaja Bento box eyeshadow in Orange Blossom. This is really small. Definitely the e.l.f. Bite Size eyeshadows are just as small, but this is like stacked, so it's thicker. So I guess they're a tie, but this is really pretty. There's only shimmery shadows in this, so I don't use this as much as I do with the e.l.f. one because you can't make a cohesive eyeshadow look with just all shimmers in my opinion. But this is really great and really cute and really small, so this is also my smallest eyeshadow palette. And on the other side of the spectrum is Show Your Largest palette. So this is why I had two for the colorful one, because the Morphe James Charles is my largest palette. Along with being really colorful, this palette is gigantic, like so big. It is the size pretty much of my Alex drawers. When you put it in, like the two edges of the drawer is on the two sides. So this is the size of my Alex drawer. And to be honest, that is kind of why I don't really reach for this, because it just gets hidden in the bottom of my drawer. I know he now has a smaller version of this, but I don't see any reason why I would buy a smaller version of the same palette that I have. So I don't know. I'm still iffy about it, but it's really pretty and I do want to try to use it more, but when it's at the bottom of my drawer, it's kind of hard to grab. Next is Your Best Memory. So this is the palette with my best memory. This is the Shane Dawson and Jeffree Star palette. So my sister and I love Shane Dawson and we watched the entire series together as they were coming out. We loved Shane Dawson even before he started working with Jeffree Star, like back when his backgrounds were all yellow. We loved watching him. And so when we saw that he was coming out with the palette, we knew we had to go to the launch. And this was the first time we've ever been to the launch at Morphe, I think. We had to get there early. So we got up, Morphe opens at 10. So we got up at 6 and we're like, okay, we'll get there by 7. And we didn't even know if the mall was gonna be open. Said, okay, like if we get there at 7, we'll just sleep in the car and we will just like wait until the mall opens, but at least we'll be like first in line and just watch for people that walk up to the door. But when we got there, we saw that people were already running in, and so I told my sister to go ahead and go inside and I'll park the car because I was driving. So I told her to go in and like let me know if there's a line. If not, then we'll just come back and like take a nap in the car until 10 when it opens. Boy, was I wrong. So we got there at 7 and there was already probably 30 or 40 people in line. So we instantly got in line at 7 a.m. and just like waited 3 hours in line for this palette. It's gorgeous and beautiful and was very much worth it. That is my favorite memory because it was just a crazy time and we were actually one of the first people to go in there because they split it up into like different sections because it was crowding the mall. So we were like the first section to go in and it was a crazy time and I love this and it has great memories associated with it. So yeah. The next one I have is Show the palette that was worth the hype. So this is the Tati Beauty Volume 1 Texture Neutral palette. This had so much hype because Tati Beauty knows her eyeshadows. She is one of the OG beauty gurus in the community and she has tried so many different things from like the most expensive eyeshadows to the least expensive eyeshadows. So you know her formula is going to be good when she makes an eyeshadow palette. This is actually my second eyeshadow palette from her. The first one I have, this purple shimmery shade broke because I dropped it. And so now that first palette is the palette in like my makeup bag that I do for other people. And this is actually a really great palette to have for like makeup that you want to do on other people because there's just so many good shades in here, like a neutral, a transition shade, a deepening shade, a black shade, a light shade, and then these two pops of colors. I love this palette, which is why I had to get another one. And now I have one for myself and one to put on other people because a lot of people ask me to do their makeup, and so now I have a palette specifically for that, and it's one of the best palettes in my collection. I love it so, so, so much, and it was definitely absolutely worth the hype. And the mirror, which I don't want to show you because I don't want to blind you, is amazing as well. Like, it's one of the best mirrors I have in my collection, and I can't say enough good things about this palette. I love it, and I'm so, so, so excited for what she has next. I'm definitely gonna buy pretty much all of her palettes because I love it so much, and I love that there's just so many different textures, and I'm so excited to see what she comes out with next. So now I'm going to show you a palette that was not worth the hype, and I have the Zoeva palettes. I don't know if Zoeva changed their formula or what, but I remember a lot of people hyping up their palettes, loving them so, so much, saying that they're so pigmented and so worth it. I think one of the first people that I saw talk about it is Nicole Renee Cutler, and she talked about how she loved these Zoeva palettes. And at the time that she talked about them, they were actually just online. They weren't in like any stores or anything, so I didn't want to pay for shipping because back then I think I was in college still, so I didn't want to pay for shipping or to wait for it, even, especially if I didn't know how they were. These were actually on sale at Ulta when I purchased them. I think they were like $7 each, which is why I was like, I have to pick them up because I remember them talking about it, and I do not see the hype at all. Like, these are mediocre shades. They're kind of chalky. They're kind of stiff. They're not like the pigmented shades. And I don't know. I am not obsessed with them. I've tried better shades before. I don't know. I don't really get the hype. Now I don't hear about them at all. So I don't even know if they're still hyped up. But I remember before that they were hyped up a lot. And I don't know. So I might actually be giving this away because I don't think I'll be reaching for these as much as I would like to. Next one is show your favorite palette from a favorite brand. So one of my favorite brands is Colourpop, as a lot of people would say. So this is the Kathleen Lights X Colourpop So Jaded palette. I purchased this right when it came out last summer, and I love this palette. This palette is so unique, and it has just so many different beautiful shades that you can create so many eye looks out of this. This is such a gorgeous palette, and I love that there's this like super shock shadow in there, there's shimmery shadows, there's some glitters, which, you know, we're all iffy about, and there's so many matte shades. It's so inspiring, it's so beautiful, and every look that I've created with this palette I've loved so, so much. And I just love the jewel tones. It's so unique in the industry. Not many palettes have these jewel tones, and I just love this palette so much. It's definitely one of my favorite palettes, and if you're looking to get into color and you love Colourpop, I highly recommend this eyeshadow palette. She did such a great job with Colourpop, and I cannot recommend this enough. So the next category is show your most used palette. This is the ABH Soft Glam palette. Besides the Jackie Aina, I think Jackie Aina is second, but this is my favorite ABH palette ever. I actually purchased one of these palettes for my best friend. She's getting into eyeshadows, and so I wanted to purchase this palette for her because it's a really good everyday shadow, like the Going Coconuts palette, but this has more shades than the Going Coconuts palette. It has this really beautiful black that you can do anything with. You can smoke out the lower lash line, create a wing. It has this great tempera shade, which is great for all over the lid. It has so many good deepening shades and a really beautiful transition shade that I've already hit pan on. So many shimmery shades. This is just such a great everyday palette, and I love this so much. Like, if I was to keep only one ABH palette, it would probably be this one. This definitely stole my heart over Modern Renaissance, and I think this is a beautiful palette for anyone starting out with makeup. It's a great all-around palette, and the pigments and the textures of these eyeshadows are one of my favorites in the industry. So that is my eyeshadow palette tag. Let me know down below if you have any of these palettes and if you love them and what you think of them. I really hope you enjoy the video. Please subscribe and give it a thumbs up, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye!